Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the C-Man Championship Week.
And
I hate it so much.
Coming in hot off the end of the SHL stream. It is, of course, Hockey Talk tonight on Tuesday nights. It's me, Seven, Phalanx in the top right, Smith in the bottom left. Dwight is currently launching Skype. We were talking to him about 2 minutes ago, and we lost him because his computer is held together by the same duct tape that holds the Amazon boxes together on his back wall.
Unsurprising that it's
I
taking
think
him
the
more than
I think
5
the
minutes
Amazon
to
tape
launch
is probably
Skype.
stronger. than what
Amazon
Chris
box
Paul
is absolutely better constructed than his computer. Not even close. In case you missed it, Seattle and Manhattan both clinched in Game 6 about 10 minutes ago, giving us the C-Man Championship Week.
Let's go.
The J stream is going on now, I believe, or about to go
yeah,
on.
That sounds right. Now sounds great.
So Phalanx will probably be temporarily distracted. But yeah, we are here for Hockey Talk tonight.
I wonder if watching the stream is the secret to my team not being ass.
Maybe. But we are here for charity tonight, as we were last week, and as we will be next week, and maybe the week after. I'm not exactly sure when the cutoff for the charity drive is. If you have your Twitch Prime subs, those will go straight to UNICEF through me. We get to take money from Jeff Bezos and give it to charity, which would absolutely piss him the fuck off.
True.
If stealing money from Jeff Bezos and giving it to charity isn't the most based thing you could possibly imagine, then I don't know what to tell you.
So yeah, we're here. We're having a good time. We got questions in the chat. Ooh, off season. That's actually a really, really good question. So we will get to that, Brick. I promise. We also have the classic trade alerts coming in hot off the elimination of Winnipeg, which we will get a chance to talk about. Not exactly sure when Dwight's going to get here, honestly. So we will recap with the stuff that we don't need Dwight for.
Yeah, it could be. It could be like right now. It could be as we shut down
10
the stream
minutes from
tonight.
now. Yeah, could be 45 minutes from now. Who knows?
Yeah, so we've got two big things going on in the SHL. A, playoffs, which we hyped up a little bit. B, charity drive, which we talked about a little bit with Jeff Bezos and stealing money from him. If you're interested in the charity drive, you can also be the title sponsor for Hockey Talk Tonight for the upcoming season, or for season 69, because I'm a little bit of a dingus and forgot we were still in 67.
Yeah.
So you can be the title sponsor of Hockey Talk Tonight for a season.
Is there a money limit where you say, all right, it's both seasons now, or is
Honestly,
it
I'll have to
only
figure
for one
figure that one out. If
Play that one by
if it's
ear.
actually something that people are interested in, it will absolutely be up for sale.
Right.
If you're interested in putting your team's logo on this shirt and then owning that shirt after the fact, we can also do that, because you can literally bid on the shirt off my back these next 2 weeks. You can own game-worn Hockey Talk Tonight memorabilia, which is the weirdest thing I think I've ever said.
We've said a lot of bizarre things on this podcast, and boy, that is fucking up there.
It's a very it feels like a niche product.
It's a very niche product, but there's multiple people out there that are going to want that, and I really enjoy that this gives us some weird platform to raise money.
If you want to be that person that cuddles up to a pillow wrapped in Seven's
Honestly,
tank top at night, you go for it.
what's that shirt you think Rags wears? Because Rags honestly Rags would totally be in on this.
He's probably large if I had to guess.
Yeah, I wear a large shirt, ship it off to Rags, sign it for him. It's like the ultimate, the Gym Boy connection. There's a ton of stuff up for auction, though. Gathering donations. Like I said, the Twitch Prime donations go towards charity as well. I've traditionally for the last two charity drives, matched up to the first 20 subscriptions, which we hit exactly last week. So we've put $100 towards UNICEF already. Any additional Twitch Prime subs will get shipped off that direction as well. And yeah, it's all for a good cause. Steal money from Jeff Bezos. There's Pesky Penguin. Thank you. Oh yeah, Pesky's one of those new people from Kelowna, so that's cool to see.
Nice.
Glad to have them out.
Welcome.
Talked to their partner a lot actually in the last draft class. Anyway, charity drive playoffs. We had the charity drive before, but it's been a little bit. Was the last one? I can't remember. Do you guys remember if the last one was also with the last one was also with the other sim leagues, right?
Believe so.
But it wasn't as we didn't have the auctions. We were just kind of raising money towards like the unified cause.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the auctions are new and that's a lot of fun. Anything immediately stand out to you guys from the auctions? I know one of the Sloth was asking for your favorite charity auction so far.
I have to take a quick look at them because I haven't yet.
I have a few.
Yeah.
I really like the naming rights to San Francisco's arena.
Why.
That's pretty good. I like the shirt auction. That's pretty funny. I think I really like the Hall of Fame card auction. I think that's really cool. Like pick a Hall of Fame player and get it moved to the front of the line for card creation. That's really cool too.
But also it's not cool because Danny Bananas Foster isn't in the Hall of Fame.
Fuck,
Sad.
you right.
Honestly, I wish it would have been a
couple,
awards card as well.
The couple that jump out at me right away is the breakfast package from Evoc. Because if you've never had authentic Quebec maple syrup before, it fucking slaps.
I have, thanks to you and Calicar.
Yeah, thanks, Cal. And then the underwhelming painting from Jess, I'm very into.
Those are gonna be absolute fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've really liked seeing everybody get like super into this. There's literally like a page and a half to like there's like 30 threads in the auctions subforum right now.
Yeah, the naming rights to San Francisco's
that thing's gone off the rails and I don't understand it.
What is it at right now? It was at like $75 last I looked.
Let me take a look.
Let's see. Page 3 of the of the bids. Yeah, it's still sitting at 75. Wally currently has the highest bid at $75.
Also, my rookie is offering me maple syrup if I put him on PP1 next season, so that seems like absolutely free.
That sounds like the freest maple syrup you'll ever get.
I like that the division names are going to be up there for the J.
Cool too, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense because like we went to the divisions and we just kind of filled them with the names of the players from like former commissioners, just because we had like nothing else to throw in there. So I'm kind of hyped about that, kind of terrified about that, because Bromanov leads one of them. Luke leads one of them. Grok leads one and Jess leads one. And I'm terrified of the Bromanov, Luke, and Grok ones.
Yeah. I really think it's a cool idea to offer the seat at the charity D&D one.
Yeah. Trips's D&D game is going to be pretty sick. I'm in a campaign ran by Trips, and that's a lot of fun. I get to play in that again tomorrow night, having a blast.
Yeah.
Absolutely unhinged shit goes on in there sometimes, and it's a really good time.
Unsurprising, honestly.
Podcast appearances are pretty cool. Pretty neat to see just like how many different ways people have like taken things that they have agency over around the league and said, hey, what if I like monetize this for a good reason?
Yeah.
So all in all, big fan of it. There was a brief period of time where I was like browsing the VHL site. Not necessarily, I wasn't trying to join the VHL. But I was browsing the VHL site and I saw that they did the auctions for different charity stuff. And I was like, wow, that's a really cool idea. And then before I could like think about it anymore, like all of a sudden we were in the charity drive, and then all of a sudden, boom, there were auctions. So I was like, oh, cool. I don't have to like think about this at all.
Yeah.
So big fan of that. Flex just put in a bid for one of the Jess paintings.
I'm going in.
You'll love to see it. But yeah, I think it's a really good time. I hope we'll see a couple more submissions from people over the next week or so, and then we can get some pretty good bids up there to make the SHL in general really show up for the charities compared to the other leagues, because it's all a little bit of a competition.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wanted the Jeffy division for the Jack Canoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
FHM8 makes me sad, by the way.
Fair.
Yeah.
Same.
I watched my team give up like just some absolutely miserable goals.
Oh, I watched Seb give up like two from the blue line this playoffs.
Unlucky.
Seb's secretly trash. That's the fun fact of the day. He's trash, but then he wins all the important games.
I say you're talking to a person who's absolutely stonewalled. So
No, he absolutely like dunks on every game that he needs to win. But then like if a game doesn't matter, Seb is just shit, and it's great. The amount of like artificial harassment Seb gets in Seattle is hilarious. None of it's legit, but like it feels like every day or every other day Seb's getting dunked on. Just based on either Seb being Seb or for Willie Miller stuff. Anything else you guys want to highlight about the charity drive or the playoffs immediately? First impressions. I guess who you guys have in the finals? Manhattan is very hot right now.
Yeah, Manhattan seems to be just like on fire.
Seattle
over the last like week or so.
Yeah, Seattle is the better roster, finally potentially hitting their possibly hitting their potential. But I think Manhattan has kind of handily dealt with the entire Eastern Conference at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's not as much of a one-sided thing as like you would be led to believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see, who did Manhattan beat in the? They beat Atlanta to get here, right? Yeah, they beat Atlanta in 7, and they beat Philly in 7 before that. So they've kind of ground their way through. But Seattle also kind of took the hardest road going through Calgary and Winnipeg. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
No respect.
I mean, yes, but
I know
Winnipeg and Calgary were like the top 5 teams in the league. Like that's not meant to be like a dunk. That's just literally like if you go to the regular season and sort by points, like Winnipeg's 1, Calgary's 4, Seattle's 5. Like San Fran's up there at 6, but like
7.
San Francisco, you mean shit Francisco?
Got him.
Shit,
Fucking
right.
got him.
Like
Got me.
Atlanta, Philly is 3 and 8, but like Winnipeg, Calgary is 1 and 4.
Yeah.
And like Seattle's coming in like blazing hot through the second half of the season.
Yeah.
And like finally performing like how I think a lot of people thought they would with the
classic get hot at the right time.
Yeah. The roster finally like showed what it could be after like the first half of the season was kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was one point I'm pretty sure we were like 16th in the league. Like after one of the regular season sims, and we're like, "Oh, this kind of sucks."
Mm-hmm.
Thought about blasting Fuzz, saying, "Hey Fuzz, you traded me to the wrong team." With the Winnipeg trade, or sorry, with the Winnipeg elimination, we saw the trade that they had been holding on to with San Francisco, where they are recognizing the start of their competitive window that Ace has been rebuilding towards. They are sending the Texas first from next season and the Manhattan first from next season, so the class of 69s. The free agent rights to Rob Wright, which is Snuff, I believe.
Yes.
And then getting Zoot, who is about to hit regression. I don't remember.
Sounds right.
I think Zoot's about to hit regression, but like max earning defenseman, I believe, right?
He's a forward.
Oh, okay. I'm just all sorts of wrong. And then a third in the class after the 69, which like might be something, but it feels like a little toss-in.
He's a season 59, so he's good. Yeah, he starts regression at next season.
Okay. Got Zoot on the sign and trade with the retention for the 3 seasons, which is the expected sort of product of a team looking to buy for a window.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into Brick's question of who do you think will be the biggest buyers and sellers this offseason. Is like you're looking at San Fran selling to stock up for their future, and you're looking at Winnipeg buying to hit their window.
Yeah.
So that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially like that Texas first seems super valuable.
Yeah.
Like Texas
I mean,
was 17th this season. Like
this
behind
season and next season combined, San Fran has 6 first-round picks.
Yeah.
That's a lot of first-round picks.
Yeah.
And like Texas is going to be a good first-round pick. Like they're ahead of Minnesota right now, but like, I mean, who knows what next season brings? I doubt Texas tries to tank super hard without their first, but like, there's like in that position where they don't have a lot of quality talent on the active roster.
Right.
So, them in Minnesota's going to be more incentivized to race towards the bottom, I think. So that'll end up being like a top 10 pick more than anything. But a top 10 pick in the 69 draft is super good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a feeling that the San Fran first will be top half next season as well.
Probably with how you guys are liquidating.
Selling, yeah. Hopefully that, and then they also have 2 seconds. They have San Fran second and New England second as well. So in next season.
And those are shaping up to be like between 20 and 30, so those are promising.
Yeah, San Fran's gonna be able to stock up on a lot of prospects between these next 2 drafts. So
rebuild number 2. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Smith is kind of used to it.
Yeah.
But I am simultaneously terrified and interested in what happens to Winnipeg. Like, already the President's Trophy winner by 6 points, and like cleared the Western Conference by 12 in Calgary, like plus over 100 goal diff. They seem like fully prepared to just like be on top of the league for the next few seasons, and I'm curious how well FHM 8 rewards that, and B, like what the ceiling of that team is. Which kind of gets into my second bit of, we saw Manhattan, the 9th team in the league by points this season, and Montreal 13th place in the league this season, make runs to the conference finals, upsetting Atlanta, upsetting Toronto. How rewarded do you think Winnipeg gets with this move? Like, do you think that like you can be just good enough to skate through your conference at this point, or do you think that it's a bit of a trap in the new sim engine?
I don't think it's ever going to be the point where you can just reliably say you're going to skate through your division or like the playoffs, just because you never know, a team getting hot at the right time, or you just getting sim goalied. You can't ever predict that. So it's I don't think you're ever going to get to that point. I think they're going to be a lot more confident going into those situations. But it's impossible to say that you're just going to know that you're going to skate through.
Yeah. I guess part of that is like if you look at roster quality, like I'm not trying to throw shade, but I think people didn't come into the season expecting Winnipeg and Toronto to be the top two teams in the league.
Right.
Like they had,
I remember
they had phenomenal regular seasons.
Yeah, I remember, like when we were looking at fantasy players at the beginning of this season, I heard from multiple people to stay away from Toronto players because they weren't going to have a good season.
Yeah.
And like that turned out to be completely false.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like people expected Atlanta and Seattle to like sort of carry their conferences.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the extent that we expect Winnipeg to, but like definitely expected these teams to carry their conferences. And they both had like notable slumps during the season. So like you had Winnipeg and Toronto having better regular seasons than expected, and then Atlanta and Seattle having slightly worse regular seasons than expected. Atlanta having a pretty solid regular season, not to discredit them or anything. But like you look at like the team quality kind of shown through a little bit more in the playoffs than in the regular season, I think. Like Atlanta handled Newfoundland no problem, and like I think most people were prepared for them to beat Manhattan pretty handily as well. And Seattle has faced pretty much every challenger from the top of the table as well. So it makes me think that like Winnipeg, I think I honestly expect Winnipeg to have like a third to like fifth place finish next season, and then just like dummy the Western Conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of taking the Tampa Bay Lightning approach of like it doesn't. We just got to get in.
Yeah, like you're making the playoffs, so like this part doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. Like as long as you get in, it'll be good. Doesn't really matter where.
Yeah, you can like
save strats for the major.
Yeah. But like unironically, I think that like I don't even know how. Like I don't even think it's possible to save strats for the major. That coming from like an old school Counter-Strike meme, by the way, where like teams would like inherently save like super cool tech for like when it mattered more in like the the final rounds of matches at like major tournaments.
Fnatic boost.
Oh, hey, Dwight.
Oh, snap. He's
like different boosts, different techs, different rollouts. Like, there was like an idea behind like you would save your things that would like notably change the game for like very important situations. I don't necessarily think that exists in FHM. But honestly, if there's like a chance to do that, I think it's this next season Winnipeg team. Dwight, I don't know if you've been listening in on Twitch as you've been trying to fix things. We covered.
I'm just following whatever questions you ask.
Yeah.
Can you guys not see my camera?
I am.
Yeah, your camera's not showing up on the
I
screen.
am working on that part right now.
See it on Skype.
Bottom right cam.
Okay.
Maybe that. There we go. Boom. Cool. We've got Dwight. We don't have boxes. It's a little weird.
Can you like?
There we go. There we go.
Yeah,
The content that we all needed. Spam this. ACAP knows. ACAP knows what's up.
ACAP knows.
Jess, I'm sorry we weren't paying attention to you. I had things minimized while trying to help Dwight and trying to look at the standings. And like I don't think that Winnipeg
Wait,
like
that's not a euphemism. So
I don't think that Winnipeg expected to find the success that they did and find the President's Trophy. And that's not to say like Winnipeg expected to be bad or like they were discrediting themselves, but I think that like they got really hot through most of the regular season. Mm-hmm. But I think there's like I think that we've seen like a shift in parity, like an increase in parity that means that the regular season results don't regress to the mean as quickly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if most of the teams are winning and losing games at more of a random level, but one team gets hot and wins a lot of games, it plays it back into like the gambler's fallacy of like, if a team wins 20 straight to start the season, but they have a 50% chance to win every game, the chance of them winning the next game is still 50-50. Like, they're not inherently more inclined to win more games based on the games that they've already won. So I think that we've gotten closer to coin flip matchups in individual games, but inherently teams will get slightly luckier than others. So you'll see teams succeed for a stretch of time, but then not regress to the mean as quickly, because like everybody's still pretty likely to win 50% of their games.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like that we need like every game to be a 50-50, but I'm like, games at worst should be like 65-35s or like 75-25s. And I think on the old engine, things were more determinate, so that you had fewer teams. Like, you might have like old school Hamilton, who's going to win like 80% of their games, 90% of their games.
Yeah.
Like, drop 2 games. But they'd win everything else after that. And like, I think that you're seeing teams more hold course after they go on win streaks, or like you'll see like they'll go on like a win streak and then they might go on a lose streak, or they might ride steady. And I think that like, not to say that Winnipeg and Toronto were bad teams, but like they ended up like 10, 15, 20 points above where people originally predicted them, because like they got hot for an extended period of time and then they just like went even through parts of their stretches. Whereas I think you didn't necessarily have that with how deterministic FHM6 was. Dwight, we also talked about the charity drive. If anything stood out to you about the items up for auction or anything along the lines of the charity drive, if you've been paying attention to that.
7 tank top.
Yeah.
Sure, go do that.
Own the tank top.
Own the tank top, boys and gals.
Put your logo on my chest. Own the tank top afterwards.
Does it? Wait, question. Does it have to be an SHL branded shirt?
It's got to be from the merch store.
Oh, okay. As I say, and then do I have to? Can I choose who to send it to, or does it have to be sent to me?
Wait, what are you planning?
Don't worry about it.
I'm very worried about it, actually.
What on earth are you planning?
Don't worry about it.
All right.
I mean, if it's a Sun Bear logo, that'd be pretty cool.
Oh my God, you're gonna send a Newfoundland tank top to Toast?
No, but that would be hilarious.
That'd be pretty good.
That's the only thing I can think of.
As is tradition.
But yeah, my idea was that we were gonna do it from the merch store. I'd buy it, get it shipped here, wear it for a couple episodes, throw it in the washing machine, and then ship it off. And then a lot of people were mad about the fact that I was going to throw it in the washing machine, so I don't know how to feel about that one, honestly.
Yeah, what's the point of you even wearing it then? Jeez.
Right.
I mean, like, Game worn washed is still valuable.
You're in the like world of gamer girl bathwater, dude. So like,
I mean, yeah, it's like the
come
natural
on.
transition from having an
It's
OnlyFans.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
Did we
unless
make
you're
you
like,
wear
unless
just
you're
an
like,
apron.
so unless you're like hand washing the jersey and then afterwards bottling the water.
Oh my god, I forgot about that one.
Like, what's the point?
yeah. Come on.
Yeah, I forgot about the apron one. Honestly.
Apron's pretty good. I like that.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Dwight, anything stand out to you from the playoffs? I guess most interestingly, the upset heavy East versus the pretty chalk West.
So I might be talking out my butt, but it really like the biggest thing was actually the Philadelphia Manhattan series for me.
Okay.
I'm not really surprised at all the rest of them because I don't really think anyone changed strategies from the regular season, and I think the regular season had the teams that ended up winning in the playoffs having a better record. So
Okay, so you're saying that the regular season matchups kind of held true through the playoffs?
yeah, I need to double check that, but like you would have traditionally thought Atlanta beating Manhattan, but I do recall Manhattan historically, at least in the past two seasons. I
mean,
don't recall about
we
this
can
one.
actually check that, I think.
Yeah, I could be talking out of
Yeah.
my butt, like I said, but I'm pretty sure
Total
most of those
games.
series ended up pretty much similar
Um,
to the regular series
right.
records.
So they've got 7 Manhattan games. They won in a shootout. They won. They
I
won
almost
in
did. Rich.
overtime.
I almost did.
They lost. They won. So Manhattan won 2 of these games.
Okay.
Manhattan won 2. Atlanta won 3, and then 2
Okay, so
more
that's-
in extra time.
Okay, so that one's talking on my butt too. See, it must have been last season because I remember Manhattan just having an overwhelming win percentage on Atlanta in the
Yeah.
past, like one of the past seasons. So
Yeah.
I guess that was abnormal.
You're more dialed in than the rest of us at this point. Do you think that SHL GMs were making a lot of changes in the playoffs?
Not probably a few were, but I don't really think that many. I think the big ones were really Manhattan were the big ones that I think were changing things.
Okay.
And Montreal, Montreal especially were I think making the most changes.
So you're saying that the 2 teams that like were making a lot of changes actually were the ones that were finding a lot of success?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, Atlanta would change things at the beginning of the series, but then there'd be nothing else really, unless they were like facing elimination. Then they would change things. But there was nothing really mid-series from Atlanta, from what I recall.
That's fair. And I guess like to combine on that with what Jess is saying in chat, with like if they're not testing, they're not going to be making a lot of changes. I think that like in an ideal world, you can look and say, okay, this team is looking to play this type of hockey.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we can do against that type of hockey, and like actually go about it like qualitatively.
Yeah.
As opposed to like throwing actual testing at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I talked about earlier, like last season, I personally made a change at the end of the season, and it was for the better for our team. But I then made a change in the middle of this season, and it was a very minor change, and our team ended up going on a 17 losing streak. So it was just kind of like, oh, well,
Yeah.
things that you don't think will have a major effect can just be so drastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think on the other end of that is, you know, you'd think, like just said, you think they wouldn't be making a lot of changes, they weren't testing, but those changes are being made because they're trying to figure out what works. You know, like you don't have the ability to test on your own, so you have to submit and see if it works.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, you change it back, or you
Yeah.
change it to something else. So like the number of changes, like the volume of changes, could actually increase instead of decreasing because you're just trying to figure out what works
Mm-hmm.
instead
Well,
of finding something and sticking with that through the whole season.
Like the amount of changes that people see.
Exactly. And my perspective is, and I don't know if other teams have this perspective, is like our team, we actually have one of the lower TPs now, like middle of the league TPs, and I would much rather be like either really good or really bad. I don't want to be in that middle ground. So it's like try and find what works, and if you fall on your flat and have a huge lose streak, then you're at least learning something. And preparing your team for the future down the road.
I guess I'm curious to your perspective, A, for how Tampa's running right now, and then B, for teams that should be at the top of the table and teams that are trying to tank. How much of the regular season, in your mind, should be learning and figuring things out, and how much of it should be competing for points?
It really just depends on what your player goals are.
Okay.
I think that really depends on what like your goal for the season is. Like if you're a really good team and you think you're gonna make the playoffs no problem, then you can probably do a little more tweaking.
Sure, but I mean, we're in a league where
works.
only 4 teams miss the playoffs.
Yeah,
And like,
right.
if you're not one of if you're looking at the rosters and the teams put together, and you're like, okay, I can't out tank these teams.
Yeah.
Like
It also kind of depends on how much you value like getting a good seed in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like in the J, it matters a little more where you can get like a first round bye.
Mm-hmm.
But in the SHL, I guess it's a little different.
Well, you get the first round bye, and then you also get seeding for next season. You know, your division placement. You know, where are you going to get put? What division are you going to put in? Because those are based on regular season standings, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
So, like, you could be trying to, again,
Although,
it's FHM, so gaming the system is
with the increase,
but...
with the increased variance, especially like with how much of the J is considered like mid-table right now, like division seedings for a lot of teams are coming down to like the last sim.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think that you're able to really pull that one way or another effectively.
Yeah, I think that making those changes, like trying to get points or just like messing around with it, is kind of just like it's up to the team in that, like, do you care about like you said earlier, you know, are you going to make the playoffs easily, and if so, or do you want to go for player stats, or are you trying to just like coast, or you know. In that case, you find something that's going to get your top players a lot of points and kind of just sit on that.
Mm-hmm.
Or are you trying to find something that works? You know, if you're a mid-tier team, are you trying to find something that works better against those top-tier teams and not necessarily against your mid-tier opponents?
Yeah.
You know, do you have something that has even just a slight better win percentage against those top-tier teams, and then you run with that and, you know, don't change it? But that could require multiple submissions.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of just depends on what your end game is.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'll say like I will recognize that I have some traits of an SHL GM. I am like hyper competitive. I am sometimes an asshole, and I'm like wanting to scrape like those percentage points. If I'm looking, if I have all of the time to do what I'm trying to do in the regular season, I'm absolutely looking to figure out what works best against the likely divisional round opponents that I'm about to face. Figuring out strats for that, what works, what doesn't work, as best as I can. So like maybe the day before, like I have a big divisional run, I'm like setting up a strat to get like build team familiarity with the strat that I want to run, and then I'm running that day, so I'm not like swapping strats on the team, which like might have a negative impact on the roster. And I'm like trying to figure out, okay, every little percentage point I can get for these divisional round matchups, I'm gonna take. Like
yeah, which makes sense.
Like
you want the best change in the playoffs that you can get. Right?
Well, so it goes both ways. Like losing first round has upside. Like, you get an earlier draft pick, and in the SHL, like, that like 6 overall draft pick versus like 10 overall draft pick or 12 overall draft pick, absolutely huge.
I don't know who you are, Pink Cat, but I appreciate it.
Incredible, absolutely incredible.
So like you're Jesus Christ. I'm trying to remember where I was at in this. So draft pick, like if you go out in the first round versus winning your first round matchup, that can be a big thing draft capital wise, individual prospect that you're picking up. That can be a huge thing for a middle tier team that needs like one more piece to get through, or is like going to drop into full rebuild the next season and wants like one good asset now while like contributing some to the locker room. Like that, and it entirely comes down to GM perspective. Like some GMs are gonna be like, all right, get me out of this first round, I'll take the higher draft pick, we'll move on, this season's a wash. I'm the kind of person that's like, I want to fuck this team up. I don't care if I lose in the next round. I want to fuck this team up, and that's going to be intrinsically more valuable to me and to my team than picking like 6 spots higher in the next draft.
Sure.
And I think that both viewpoints are valid, because you're dealing with something that is tangible results going into intangible products and draft picks versus just straight intangibles with like what this can do for like what it would do for a locker room, what it does for the culture kind of thing. So like it can go both ways. It's a very complex thing, but like there's opportunities, like if that's something that you believe in, to absolutely play into it. And then to compound on all that, maybe FHM 8 is just the kind of game that says, hey, these 9 seeds, these like 12th place teams in the playoffs, literally bottom half of the league playoff teams, just make the cup finals. Like, you know what that does for Montreal? Like, a team already on the rise.
That'd be wild, honestly.
Like Montreal's already on the rise. They have a ton of prospects. They're now, oh hey, this team can like swing above their weight class. Free agency, better off.
I can't even imagine the amount of rage that would generate on the
locker
site.
Room culture, better off. Like
I would love it.
Yeah, I mean it would be great for the underdog story, but the amount of so I guess TPE and regular season standing doesn't matter. Rage would be insane.
So like, honestly, like it doesn't.
Right.
Like, yes, like the regular season is stats for like the player careers, and like outside of that, the regular season from a team perspective, the regular season is you get a better percentage chance of winning the series up until the finals. When like anytime that home ice is going to play into it, your regular season gives you percentage points towards that. That's it. Like, oh, regular season performances matter. No, like you get maybe you can have like 10% towards your chance of making it to the next round. That's it.
Right.
Like, that shouldn't be the be all end all. And fuck you if you think that that the regular season performance is like what matters in that case. Like, that's not why.
Clearly,
that's not why anybody's playing sports.
We mentioned it earlier that like Seattle has made it, and they finished below both Calgary and Winnipeg.
That's where I say like it really just depends on what your team wants to do for the regular season. Like because like regular season is super important for people who are like stat chasing and trying to get Hall of Fame, because the playoffs really don't matter as much for that, other than like winning the eventual cup.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter if like you make it like 1 round or 3 rounds, because like in the end, like your career is looked on of like were you in the finals? How'd you do in the finals? How many cups do you have?
That, and then like whether or not you're point per game, or how close are you to point per game?
Yeah.
At least in Hall of Fame slash. I'm really hopeful that those start up soon and we get our Hall of Fame.
So those
going.
are in the process.
Yeah, confirmed
we had,
from HO that Hall of Fame is on its way back.
We
soon.
had some rough scenarios over the last half year.
Because I was about to say, aren't we like 4 seasons behind right now in Hall
Correct.
of Fame?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last class induction was the class of '63.
And like history and record books in general are just like rough.
The awards history is up to date, but
but I mean like
other than that,
single player stuff, which
correct.
I mean,
yeah,
I'm really happy that's being righted and we're getting caught back up on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I like that there feels like, as we've been talking there, it feels like there's more nuance in how the season progresses. It feels like in 6 it was more, are you tanking or are you running for the cup? If you're in the middle, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right.
8 feels like there's a little bit more agency for the GMs to steer the ship. It feels like there's more opportunities for players to be competitive with the rest of the players in the league as far as stats go. Like, we're going to see a frame shift, I think, as far as you're not going to have Aaron Wilson levels of like 70 points for 15 seasons that you have to keep up with if you're like considering, that Hall of Fame career.
Right.
Like, that's not as much of like players are closer together in performance. You still have like the outliers, but like players seem closer, teams seem more steerable, I guess. That part seems a lot better. And maybe honestly it was like that in season 54, 55, 56, and we just and nobody was really looking at it. But at least right now that comfortably gives me some optimism.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to talk charity drive or playoffs?
Talking about playoffs?
General charity drive playoff takes. Cool. User questions from Bytor, Sloth, and Frenchie. Bytor, who has the misfortune of having to play against Seattle as Winnipeg now, but also is playing against QCC as St. Louis.
Yeah, it's going pretty well for him so far.
Fair. Asking, why does Willie Miller, Seb, seem average in the regular season and then a swole hero in the playoffs each year? Is this series progressing or ended as we thought it would? Arrogantly, yes, it ended like I thought it would. We came into the season expecting Seattle to be on top. If you look at recent performance, specifically the later 2/3 of the season, the later half of the season into the playoffs, Seattle, I would argue, was a better team than Winnipeg. I think given that, and given what Seattle was bringing to the table, I think that the series was probably a toss-up, maybe like 53-47 or 55-45 Seattle. I don't necessarily consider that like the big upset that it would show up as numerically based on regular season points. I think Winnipeg is a threatening team and like will be a threatening team for like a couple more seasons, but Seattle had the team to do it this season. It just wasn't there to begin with, and like that first third of the season holds as much weight as any other third of the season when you're looking at standings. he was also asking Phalanx. QCC and St. Louis have been locked in tactics battles last season and now this season. How much have you guys been sweating over this series? How have you guys handled the FHM 8 transition with regards to like how contentious these playoff series have been?
Last season really pissed me off. I'm gonna be honest, even though we won that series, because you shouldn't just be able to just hard counter the other team and have it work 3 times in a series.
Yeah.
Without getting like punished for it at all, and that's what happened.
It's significantly worse in this version of FHM than it was.
Yeah, and they just got away with it 3 times.
Yeah, you don't get
cool, whatever.
You don't get punished for changing global strats nearly as much as you did in the past.
Yeah, and this series, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't super confident because I know we won the Laura Fur, but we're 8th in TPE and St. Louis is 2nd, I think.
Yeah.
So and also Caleb is the coldest person. Could probably speed up global warping if you put him in the ice caps for a little while. How cold he is right now. That analogy
slow down global warming.
Slow down. Yeah, that analogy didn't make sense. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it made sense. You just butchered it.
I completely butchered it.
It was the opposite. It was the opposite. It was understandable.
Yeah, he could slow down global warming with how cold he is right now.
Yeah.
The solution is Caleb.
Oh,
solution is
real quick, because I just looked at chat. Jess wants to remind us that they can instantly purchase 1 base pack and 1 charity pack of trading cards without waiting for auctions to close by donating $2 to charity. Boom.
Donating $2.
Thanks, Jess. I'm gonna actually probably do that after I get out of here, because cards. Sorry.
Well, not free cards, but
yeah.
This is basically NFTs.
We're not super sweating it.
Yeah.
I mean, if we lose, it's whatever.
Fair.
I'm not gonna throw a tantrum and retire over it or something like that.
What?
Who would ever retire as a GM about something going on in the league?
Weird.
Yeah, imagine.
I can't believe you wouldn't consider me for Rookie of the Year.
And then specifically looking at, I guess, league health, Bytor was asking, after 2 seasons now, as we're wrapping up the playoffs, after 2 seasons, how's the switch been to no testing? Especially given how much variance we've seen to the regular season as how the playoffs have gone. We've got a lot more numerical upsets in the playoffs. Some of those based on roster quality. Some of those based on maybe a bit of luck. How have you seen the no testing going?
I mean, it's been great for you old mental health. I can say that for sure.
Yeah. Big fan of not committing 10 hours a playoff series to having FHM open.
True.
HO banning test simming was basically just a free therapy session for all GMs if you think about
it.
That and ice cream, and I'm a well-measured adult.
Yes and no. And I'll preface this with I am still very hesitant on buying into the no testing thing.
Yeah.
On paper, if nobody can test, the league is healthier. I think that it all hinges on there actually being no testing, and I think that gets really fuzzy after a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily think it'll be possible to say for a long time out from now whether or not it's actually successful. I think right now it was guaranteed to be successful.
Right.
In the same way,
the only thing really stopping you from doing some test simming is
man hours.
Man hours. Just do you want to build your own file from the ground up?
No. But like even so, if you do that and you get an identical file to the league, like you still have to represent like
It's
chemistry and wins and losses and hot streaks and cold streaks. Like you cannot, especially
it's
two-thirds of the way through the season or like into the playoffs, you cannot simulate the identical file.
Well, and then even then, like you're also then updating the entire league every week. You're like
at
the amount of
at that
work
point you should just get paid for it to be a file.
I'd say the amount of work that would go into having your own file would be mind-blowing.
Yeah. No, and I don't
and
think
if,
that exists.
If you're like unemployed and you want to spend like
it would be a full-time job
every
basically.
hour of your day like doing that, then like fuck, I guess you got it, man.
Yeah,
it's not worth it.
The only concern that I have, which was a concern that I had before this, and will be a concern that I have well beyond this episode, is that you cannot look at the current state of the league at right after an engine switch in FHM 8 now, and say, okay, this is better or worse than we were at straight as we switched from Simon T to FHM 6. FHM 6 was highly variant at the start. And sure, it sort of devolved into what it was as we got more test simming done and as like game knowledge evolved rapidly because of test simming.
Yeah.
My thought is that FHM 8 either A, cut out entirely the ability for teams to test and to essentially see the future, statistically see what the results of games would be, or B, slowed down the league's progress to a immeasurably slow rate right now.
Yeah.
I lean towards the second, and I lean towards the league unfortunately has shitty people in it.
What?
That's just the world.
Yes, it's just the world, but the league unfortunately has shitty people in it. There are people that will look at the situation that exists as exploitable. Whether they are successful or not, we will see. And this is all coming again from the perspective of somebody that is aggressively cynical about the entire situation.
That's
like
fair.
I'm going to look at it from the from one of the more pessimistic lenses in the league. At its worst, this is just going to be a slightly slower version of FHM 6. At its best, things are going to be great, and I'm super hopeful that it looks like that. But I don't trust a number of people in this league. I don't trust a number of people in this league that I know don't have the capability to successfully test sim. I just don't trust people in this league.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, where there's competition, there's always going to be something that
there's
someone
always
that
going to
tries
be
to exploit.
Beyond that.
Well, there's going to be that person that says, "I'm just here to win."
There are just inherently selfish assholes out there.
Yeah.
There are selfish assholes in this league. I am a selfish asshole. I don't have free time.
Fair enough.
Somebody out there is going to have an idea of how to break this league.
Yeah.
I expect them to be wrong because A, I've seen how this league does fucking statistical analysis. This league's fucking stupid as far as that goes. But like this league, we can't say whether or not this is going to work. We're going to have to wait and see. And if I'm a betting man, I'm going to hedge the bet of this isn't going to work, but I want to be wrong in that case, and it's very up in the air.
See, I'm kind of really excited for this finals and hopeful that Manhattan wins because,
yeah, fuck you, Seven.
No, it's not. It's not because of that. It's just I'm hopeful that we're not just entering an era of the top TPE team wins the cup.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
and,
I don't think it's like that. I think that if
and,
it was like that, we would see a different playoff right now.
and I'm not saying we weren't in that with FHM6 because we were a little bit. Like LAP, they were the top TPE team. Now, yes, last year was Atlanta, and now there's the potential for Seattle. So I'm very hopeful that Manhattan wins just to give hope to middle of the road teams.
I mean, yeah. Just
I mean,
to
I
break the streak,
I think the
Yeah.
Manhattan Montreal Eastern Conference Finals has clearly done that.
Maybe.
I guess we'll see how the finals go.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't-
if Seattle wipes the floor with Manhattan, then, like...
I don't know. Every team in the East had their own like flaws. The top teams in the West really didn't have like defined flaws.
Yeah. Welcome to the arms race that is the West.
I mean honestly,
it-
this does kind of feel like the two like avenues of success going up against each other. You've got very FHM savvy, like hockey savvy people in Manhattan. And not to say that like Tig is very hockey savvy. But like you've also just got like a top roster going up against a team that is both A, hot, and B, very savvy.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it just all comes down to contract retention.
That's fair.
I mean, there's no weak link on these two teams. Like, Manhattan underperformed in the regular season. Their team is still very, very darn good and balanced across their team. Their lowest TPE at forward and defense is 950 plus.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's really damn good. Comparative to the rest of the league. So, like, if you want lower TPEs to be more forced on teams, an easy way is just get rid of contract retention or make it, like, a smaller value.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, then you'll really start to see more randomness in the league.
Mhm.
And you'll really start seeing, in my opinion, you'll start seeing the 10 and 11 seeds potentially making a playoff run instead of just getting ousted immediately.
Yeah.
So what I'd be really interested in, and I don't think it will happen, but what I'd be really interested in is if you took the day one or day two playoffs and simmed it through the finals 100 times, 1,000 times. What does that look like as far as like what teams win what percentage of the time?
Yeah.
Because we've constantly made references to like, okay, yeah, this team's winning the cup like 30, 40, 50% of the time. When like,
Right.
And then we would contrast that to the NHL where teams are projected to win the cup like 8, 9% of the time based on like
Right.
what like 538 puts out or anything else.
Yeah. I wonder if that's something that like HO could give approval to.
Yeah,
be like,
and like
Hey, can I? I'm not if I'm not going to give like these results. I mean, obviously you could.
And like honestly, I would honestly, and like I wouldn't fault HO for saying no, we're not going to do that because
Right.
it inherently can get extrapolated into some testing data, but B,
Right.
like I don't like. I kind of agree with like not wanting to do any of it.
Right. Well, yeah. You allow someone to do that, and then suddenly they're like, "Well, if he could do that for playoffs, then
Yeah.
why can't we do that for?"
Right.
It unfolds into a big mess, and like
Right.
honestly, like
Yeah.
I don't even know right now if you need to do that because like at least as far as we are in FHM8, we've seen a lot of playoff upsets.
Yeah.
I get that, but like, and this is why I say we won't know this until probably we get into our 5th or 6th season of FHM 8. Is that like, if we have 5 seasons in a row where the top seed in the playoffs or the top TP total ends up winning, like, then you have a point of concern.
I mean, like
Yeah.
the top teams should be a threat. Full
Yeah,
stop.
a threat, but they shouldn't be winning 100% of the time, in my opinion.
They absolutely should be beatable, but like I don't think like that Their win rate should be anything. Their win rate in a game should be anything above like 60% or anything like that.
No, I agree. I completely agree, and that is enough to make it very far in a 7-game series style playoff that is hockey.
Yeah, and I think that like that is fair because like I think you should be rewarding GMs for both constructing those rosters and for creating locker rooms and subcommunities that facilitate people to earn to that point.
No, I'm fine with that.
I know you're not.
Like I said, the game mechanic that I hate that's currently in the system is contract retention because it gives disparity amongst GMs by essentially allowing teams an $81 million budget compared to $75 million budgets among the league. And I think that's not okay.
Sure. We'll contrast that with something that we were talking about a little bit before the show started. Because, you know, we couldn't get paid enough to talk about hockey, so we talk about it in our free time as well. We were talking about rebuilding teams and how quickly teams can rebuild now, seemingly in this era of salary cap and FHM8 and everything else. Do you think that the retained salary and the buying of players on retained salary accelerates rebuilds and accelerates the closing of windows and makes the league progress faster? It's like, yeah, Winnipeg bought Zoot just now. Like, literally tonight, bought Zoot. Things like that have been happening more frequently. Manhattan bought Gates. Seattle bought Me, Fest, and Ritu. Teams in positions to compete for playoff wins and for cups are spending draft picks to accelerate their roster and shift it into that like $80 million salary cap tier that you were mentioning, or effective $80 million salary cap tier that you're mentioning. Does that benefit the concept of rapidly transitioning organizations? Teams that are buying can't afford to restock as easily. If you're going to commit to the Seattle plan, you can't draft players. If you're going to sell a couple really good players and really good users that you have, you can accelerate a rebuild. Mm-hmm. Does that facilitate the rapid turnover of teams at the top that we've seen over the last 4 seasons?
I think that's just really just the regression change more than anything else.
Okay.
I think it's that and the contract changes. Like,
yeah, that too.
You're having to deal with people being adjusted every season if they pass into a new tier. Like, that's you can't sign players to a lower tier contract for 3 or 4 years and then suddenly they're a 1400 TPE player or a 1400 contract who's hitting 2K. Like, that's just not it's not feasible anymore. So you have to. A lot of teams are dealing with that now of that's what they were doing and what they were relying on to be competitive. But now they're getting shafted by those contract changes because like, oh, suddenly, we're having to pay for all of these top tier contracts that we were relying on them being cheaper because we signed them, when they were not as expensive. So I know San Fran ran into that. I know, I think, didn't Tampa run into that?
I mean, LAP ran into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, Like the initial idea of like, do a couple of our top guys like Wags and others need to move because of these cap changes was definitely a thing.
We were so impacted by the regression change that our players were old and below the tiers that it didn't matter by that time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like, I didn't fight regression nearly as hard as I could have because I was like, well, if I'm gonna break into a new tier, then like I don't need to do that. I just stay on the contract that I'm at and be mediocre instead of trying to fight regression super hard.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'll just be team contract and budget friendly. So
yeah, I think the contract, like, and just as saying, like, the contract changes definitely hit teams differently. Like, teams that were planning on, like, I think back to, like, the Buffalo wave of like season 53 guys, and like there are teams that like set their cores heavily in a single draft class, and this aggressively like disadvantaged teams that were set up to do that. And like just as saying Winnipeg, but at the same time I think Tampa had like a 56 or 57 class that was super deep. And
yeah, Winnipeg's deep classes are 62 and 63.
Ours was 54, 53, 56.
Okay.
Those were the three big classes.
Yeah, and like LAP was deep in 56. I think there was another team that was deep in 57 or 58. Like there were teams that were like heavily invested into individual classes, and this like directly worked against that strategy.
Right.
And I think that inherently shifted a lot of those teams into, okay, we're going to hit a point where we have this core at our top point. We're not going to be able to afford everybody, so we're going to take a couple of those top guys, shift them off, get assets right at the top. Then, when we're ready, take those assets, reincorporate them through retained salary pieces.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's fair to say that this is just a reaction to the changes that were put in place and how teams were already situated. I inherently also do think that this, yes, the regression changes and the contract changes did this, but I think that the overall product of that is that I agree that the peak of teams is now 81 million in effective salary. Like you grab two top guys on big retained salary, and you just have more TP on your roster than other teams can have without retained salary.
Yeah. Well, the thing that it did with the contract changes for the individual tiers was it increased the separation from those teams that have that retained contract and the teams that don't have the retained contract. In the past, yes, it may have impacted the top end of teams where the average total TP, instead of it being 650, which I wish I had taken a screenshot of team TPs prior to the changes so then I could compare. But I'm pretty sure cognitively, like, you would have teams that were in the 1600 TP range. Like, I remember Baltimore had an insane TP team in LAP 2 years ago, and I want to say their average TP was in the 1600s, like, at the end of the season, like, in the playoffs. Yeah. And we're still seeing teams at 1600 average in the playoffs with Atlanta, Seattle, Winnipeg.
Yeah.
But instead of having that next tier of teams be 4 or 5 teams deep in the 1500s,
they're worse off.
There's now one team that's in the low 1500, or two teams
There's
that are
two
in the low
teams in the low 1500 and one in the high 1400s.
Yeah. So you're saying that teams have to teams are committing resources into peaking into those like accelerated windows with the retained salary and operating at like a higher effective salary cap, and that's putting them at like a higher TPE level than the relative to the field than it was before.
Significantly more different than what it was in the past, and its effectiveness is being masked or changed because we're in a new sim.
Okay.
And we supposedly don't really know how the sim is going.
Sure.
But that is.
The entire thing is then you're looking at Seattle's success and then Winnipeg's success over the next 2 seasons, and then the team that does it after that as how effective is the retained salary play? Because is it just the way to ensure that you get your cup or that you get your finals appearance? Or is it just like an additional little tool in the arsenal like some some incremental percentage points over the field. Like
I think it significantly increases your percentage comparative to what it was before, and I think it is an unintended consequence of the change that that occurred.
Okay. A, fully agree. B, I think that is something that we will likely see addressed as soon as HO feels comfortable calling it a problem. I don't know when that'll be. I think that Winnipeg's going to get their 2 seasons of it, regardless of if it's a problem or if it's just incremental advantage. I think Winnipeg gets their time with it.
Oh, absolutely. With the acquisition of Zoot, it's like, yeah. I mean, the sheer problem is that you can have a 2K player for the price of a 700 or like an 800 TPE player. Like,
the fact that he's half retained and is just now hitting free
that
agency at 2K
that is ludicrous.
Yeah.
Comparative to saying like, we're dropping an 1100 TPE retired dude who's gonna retire. Now we can just have this player for 5 seasons. That's significantly better. And it's just kind of like good for them. They gave up assets, but like, it was a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer in this current climate. And in the past, it was less of a certain thing.
So I agree with all of this. I also think that a side effect of this is that the effect of it's going to get masked a little bit because teams are going to give up assets and they're going to fall off harder, which is how we initially got onto this conversation. Like, teams like Seattle and teams like Winnipeg are going to fall off harder than a normal top team because of this, because they don't have the draft picks to supplement the rate that they're performing at.
Yep.
So I think that inherently public perception is going to go, okay, these teams sold super hard or sold assets to be good now and then fell off, and the general perception is going to be that's fair. Which, like, obviously everybody's going to have different perspectives on it, and like we can say, okay, this is probably overtuned. But the public perception is going to be generally, this is reasonably fair. They were very good, now they're very bad. So I think it's going to very much fall onto HO to say, okay, this is where, like, it's going to fall onto HO to say, okay, this is likely very overtuned, and we're going to start drawing this in before it becomes just the methodology and teams do this for seasons on end before we react. I think that we've seen a more reactive, like a more comfortably reactive HO in the last 5, 6, 7 seasons, where they'll see, hey, we think this is a problem, and they're going to act on it pretty quickly. And obviously we've seen that there's been compounding decisions that have caused other problems, but I think that they're willing to take those shots and to tinker with things more quickly than before. And like, yes, Winnipeg's gonna sneak in and get their chance, and like, I don't necessarily think that there's anything that can be done, and I don't necessarily think there's anything that should be done about that. But I think that they will put a damper on that meta strategy before it runs rampant for like 6, 8, 10 seasons.
I mean, it's already run rampant for 6, 8, 10 seasons. It's been this way. It was only like superseded in FHM6 because FHM6 was more deterministic and people would test them.
Yeah.
Like, this has been a problem since the Buffalo acquisition of Jeffy. And, like, what happened was they made it easier to do that. They made it more
impactful to do that.
I loved the previous version of the salary cap because the only way you could retain a contract is if the player played for your team. Yeah. Now it's just like, your player has played for your organization in the past on the previous season. Now you can do it. So what it did was it essentially killed trade deadline. It made it so that teams, if you want to compete, you have to retain. in the current climate, and it's very disheartening
Mm-hmm.
if you're a team that for some reason doesn't have that ability or doesn't have a trade partner.
Yeah.
Like my team's not even in this position to really compete, and I'm like, come on, guys, what the heck? This is a clear injustice that we've dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
And heck, our team kind of benefited from it 2 seasons ago for a singular season. And I'm like, it's still messed up.
A, fully agree. B, Dwight H.O. campaign win.
I'd have to not be a GM, and I gotta break your record of games played potentially. So I gotta be a GM for that.
No, you don't.
Boy.
To stay on a team and be on a roster, yeah.
No, just
Yeah, the
float
easiest way to
float
get your roster
float around the
is to be
dregs
the
like
GM of
me.
that team.
Exactly.
All right, Phalanx, we're taking bets on who's gonna have the record by the time they retire.
It'll be Dwight because Dwight gets 16 more games than me.
Yep.
For
because
equal
the
seasons.
transition for 50 game season. Exactly.
Because
Fair enough,
I had a
fair
game
enough.
on 50. I had a season on 50 games.
Yep.
Yeah. Extra one.
Yeah, so that sucks.
Fair enough.
I have to retire at the same time as Dwight, essentially.
Yep.
If I'm gonna pull it off.
Staring match. Who blinks first?
That's right.
We're gonna be staring down the barrel of Jesus Christ.
Who crumbles into dust on the ice first?
A couple more user questions since we're dragging into the late night at this point. We already kind of hit favorite charity item. Sloth was highlighting the new IHF post that Canada's put up.
Yeah, that was cool.
Cool stuff, yeah, for sure.
Any predictions? Anything that you want to put your flag down in?
I don't pay enough attention to IHF.
my new
Go
player-
Sweden.
Sweden
player-
eventually does something.
My new
I
player
hope
is
so.
making his IHF debut as a member of Team Norway.
Ooh.
So,
Yay.
Norway.
Time to
Nice.
get that bronze medal once again.
I predicted us for a bronze medal. Hopes are high.
Me too.
I'm pretty optimistic with how IHF is going. I actually think that the U.S. and Canada are gonna start showing up a little bit again.
Yeah.
I hope so.
It's just all the pressure on Jess to make sure Team Sweden doesn't fall into irrelevance again.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure, Jess. Looking
Um,
right at you somehow. I don't
This
know.
season, but also like more over like the next 5 seasons, 6 seasons. I think that Canada and U.S. are gonna hold on to a few more players. And I think that we're gonna see a bit of a resurgence in the North American teams.
Yeah.
Draft lotto happened. It sucks. I hate this.
Oh, Jess.
Draft lotto happened. Carolina consistently gets fucked.
Have you considered being worse?
I tried that. It didn't help.
Have you considered
Carolina's
just
worst
bribing
season?
HO?
Carolina's worst season, we got jumped. Carolina's worst 2 seasons, I think we got jumped by a first-round playoff exit team. And then this season, we finally managed to stay constant. I hate everything.
If you have Trella on your team, you get first overall. These are the rules.
Trill is actively on my team.
Uh,
The rules
It
are
didn't
broken.
work.
Never
isn't
mind.
he a DFA not
Yeah,
actually
he's a
drafted
DFA.
to your team?
But he's on Carolina right now.
Oh wait.
Just blame ACAP. That's the most logical
I blame
solution.
ACAP. ACAP and
Never
Corey.
mind. I knew he was in Carolina. I thought he was a UFA
These
or
hockey talk
something.
guest spots were supposed to be for like favorable treatment, and I'm getting jack shit. So, in
It's
other
alright,
news,
you have as long as it takes next week to rage at him about
yeah.
it.
In other news, ACAP will be on next week. So if you want to ask the J Commissioner questions, you should start doing that in the thread.
Oh my goodness. Let's have the J commissioner on and then not talk about the J at all.
That sounds great, actually.
Closing. Let's only talk about international hockey next week.
Yes,
I fuck with that.
and we have to talk.
Sure
we have to talk about the
actually
draft.
Love that.
It's the draft special, so we have to talk about the draft.
Yeah.
We got 2 hours. We can break it down into one dude each. Then just split payment.
Closing
Take a week
questions. Closing questions, both from the new IHF Ireland head, Frenchie. I'm gonna flip them around. A, what is love?
Oh, God.
Baby, don't hurt me.
Baby, don't hurt me. Damn it, you beat me to it.
Yeah.
No.
No, Mom.
Okay. Super touchy feely sentimental. How would you actually define love?
Chemicals in your brain. I don't.
Chemicals in your brain go burr.
Chemical go burr.
Brain go burr.
I do like Oreos.
Also
Do
make
I love
heart
them?
go burr.
Go burr.
I'll go pretty loose. Fast and loose. I'll say any. It's the threshold for it is low, but when you're just I say in a vacuum, willing to put the other person ahead of other person's needs and interests ahead of your own, is when that starts. Like there's like very different levels of it, but I would say like the most like base level like friendship love and like gonna get super sentimental like I would apply that to everybody in this group is that like I'll inherently put like everybody in the call's needs above my own at points, and like that is sort of the floor for that.
Yeah, you say that, but you won't play fucking disc golf with us anymore.
Look, I'm busy running like 16 miles a weekend.
You can run between holes. We won't stop
you can run between the holes. Nobody's stopping you.
Nah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Run to your
maybe
disc.
now, but I just haven't played a lot of golf.
I've actually had that happen to me on the. I got lapped on a disc golf course by some guy who was running the course while playing. It was insane. The guy was fucking flying, dude. No shoes, just run up to your disc, chuck it, and go, dude. He was flying.
That guy's
All right.
on some good drugs.
Flex, what's love?
Ooh. Thinking.
You weren't ready
Well,
for
you-
this one.
While you're thinking, I'll take it.
Yeah, go ahead, go for it.
Someone who like you both make each other better and like want to do things that are
Okay.
just better for both of you, and also like it's kind of easy. Those are like the big criterias that I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like
Phalanx never experienced love. Edge.
He is a robot.
you say
Beep
that,
boop.
and I kind of feel like my brain is short circuited trying to like figure out how I want to put this into words.
Beep boop.
Brain chemicals make body go burr.
In a literal sense, yes.
Yeah,
What is it?
I don't know.
that's fair.
It
All
is doing lines of sweet tar heroin off of a Mexican hooker. Love. I don't know. I think that's a
For
card
some
from.
people, it probably is.
I mean,
I
yeah.
think that's a card from.
All right, easier question for Phalanx then. Also from Frenchie, why is poutine an elite dish?
Ooh.
I love poutine. The base of poutine is just so good. Like everything just works so well together. And then you can also just like kind of put whatever you want into it, and it's probably really good.
Yeah, it's essentially just a garbage plate that has a unified base.
Yeah, like the last time I had poutine was at some like generic sports bar, and they had like roast beef in it, and it was really good.
Yeah.
Loved every second of it. Love is poutine. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, amazing.
Love
We
is
found the
poutine.
line.
We brought
Genius.
it back.
Genius.
I'm gonna come in hot and with a uncomfortable take for a lot of people. I'm sure. I don't think poutine's an elite dish.
Wow.
this boy.
You are now banned from Quebec,
which is essentially sacrilegious, I'm sure. But like there are better ways to enjoy potatoes in my mind. Like
I would agree that there's a better way to enjoy potatoes. However, there's probably not a better way to enjoy French fries. Like it's
I don't know, man. There's some
like
really
mashed
good
potatoes,
out
top
there.
tier. Scallop potatoes, top tier. French fries, pretty fucking good. Poutine, top tier way to eat French fries.
Oh, side note: has anyone here tried the KFC French fries? Their new French fries. They're pretty solid.
I only eat Taco Bell fries.
They're pretty solid. I'm pretty sure
that's actually a lie. I've never had the Taco Bell fries.
I'm pretty sure what they did.
Fries, baby.
I'm pretty sure what they did was they just did French fries and they coated them with MSG, which is just cheating in cooking world.
I mean, basically.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, it's like bacon, but not fat.
I guess part of it is that like I probably haven't ever had like good poutine, but like in my mind, poutine is just like effectively soggy French fries crossed with like an overloaded like hash brown or baked potato.
So I wish this place.
I think you need really crispy French fries for poutine.
You do,
yeah.
But like at the same time, like
if you get a place that gives you like steak fries or something like that in poutine, that's just like a crime against humanity.
Yeah,
basically.
They're
but
ruining
like,
it.
I don't know. I can't imagine like an instance where I'd be like, yeah, this poutine is the top of the things that I would want to be eating.
Okay, so
I had a lobster poutine in Portland that was incredible. That super crispy fries. It was like it was more of like it wasn't like a heavy gravy. It was like a light cream sauce and lobster. Dude, it was.
This dude's the most pretentious motherfucker I know.
Dude,
sometimes.
It was so good.
No,
okay?
no, I'm with you.
He's recounting experiences from his family's annual vacation to Maine.
So
which is just aggressively bougie
read the room, bud.
compared to like everybody else here.
So Seven, I wish this place still existed, but Rue Domaine used to exist.
No, I used to live down the street from them.
They
in
had my favorite dish I have ever eaten, and it was a duck poutine.
Yeah, it was the French place down near the Sam's Club.
So it used to be more expensive, and then like they went through a trial period of instead of it being like super fucking ritzy as shit, it was like a standard like price point meals where like you could eat anything
they did that
from like
COVID, didn't they?
No, they'd been closed since I want to say 2016, 2017.
No, they did. Okay.
They might have redone it, and I don't know if the chef came back, but she actually moved down to Florida after it was closed for a while. Because what happened was that like shopping area got purchased by like a different people, and that company just raised the rent and all fuck time. Yeah. Regardless, duck poutine, it was the fucking best.
That's
and
fair.
like
I could see something like aggressively fatty and salty being really good there.
No, and that's really the secret. Is it's like sugar, it's salt, fat, and fucking carbohydrates and protein. It's the best. Oh, so good. I hate that place no longer exists. Rest in peace.
You fucking timed me out.
Absolutely. Get out of here with that. Get out of here with that pretentious lobster
That's the
poutine.
description from their website.
I don't care.
I don't blame them because
like
any restaurant that has like if you describe the item in more than like a sentence of like here's what's in it, like I'm not interested in eating at your restaurant. It's too uppity for me.
It's rich boy oppression. Please, you know me. I'm not rich in any sense of the word.
God.
Yeah, it's because you buy lobster poutine.
God, I will say I do love menus that use the word essence of in their sentence, and I think that shit's hilarious.
Yeah, fair.
It's so funny when menus get unnecessarily wordsy.
I'm gonna start describing LaCroix to you in DMs. Anyway,
you waved a lemon on the around the processing line of these cans of water.
This has been Hockey Talk tonight. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for the charity donations. pass it along to your friends if they have Prime subs. $2.50 to charity straight out of Jeff Bezos' pocket. It's a good time. Charity auctions on the site. C-Man Championship Week. Go QCC, I guess, since we're gonna root for our boy. Good luck in the last day of the J semifinals tomorrow. We will be back next week with ACAP, and have a good week.
Seaman finals.
Seaman
finals.
Let's go.
We've achieved it, boys.
We've achieved this. Like, we should just cancel the SHL at this point, right? It's never going to peak beyond this.
Honestly, like, do we cancel it?
Seasons.
Did we cancel it before season 69?
I mean, if we get
That
another
was
Seaman
hilarious.
finals,
But
Seaman,
like, I mean,
Seaman finals
I don't know
2,
if we will.
Seaman final 2.
Did we take that risk?
I don't think you can, though. That's the problem.
That's fair.
Yes.